The Wichita Park and Recreation Department is getting ready to do a series of prescribed burns. We have the Park and Rec Director here with us today, Doug Cupper. Doug, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Laura Gale. Appreciate it.
First, will you just explain what a prescribed burn is?
Prescribed burn is just like it is. It's a prescription to help us manage our Wichita wild sites, the areas that we are trying to bring back to tallgrass prairies, things along those lines. We have a lot of wildlife areas within the city, and we do a prescription on managing that property properly so that we have good habitat for the original inhabitants of Kansas, the deer, the skunks, the possums, and the raccoons. But it also makes a better environment and a better educational tool for our children to learn about the natural environment.
So how does setting a piece of land on fire accomplish that?
Our forefathers, and when I talk forefathers, I'm talking about the natives, Native Americans that lived here. They learned how important it was that the prairie grasses burn on an annual or a semi-annual basis. They knew that if you burn off all the old growth, new grasses grow up in that place. It's a better environment, and in the old days it brought the buffalo into the area, or the deer or the elk, made them fatter and provided better food for our forefathers. So we understand that culture. We have studied, our staff have studied that environmental use of fire. We've learned from the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management have done extensive research on doing prescribed burns. Our city employees have gone to training. We have three actual certified burners on the Parks and Recreation staff. Our primary certified person is one of our Great Plains Nature Center naturalists. Jim Mason has been our #1 prescribed burn employee for almost 30 years now. We also have 2 people trained and certified on the park maintenance side of things. And we can actually do multiple burns across the city on the same day when the weather conditions are right. Things that go into a prescribed burn, the wind directions have to be proper. We don't want to, if we're burning out at Pawnee Prairie Park, we don't want to impact flight services at Mid-Continent Airport. We don't want the smoke blowing across K-96 if we're out at Chisholm Creek Park and doing a burn there. We don't want to blanket the highway and obstruct traffic there. Water, moisture content in the air as well as in the soil have to be just right, or we can't burn, because we don't want the burns to go into the root zones and kill the plants that we're trying to improve the quality of their shape. So prescription is very important, and we write those ahead of time, and then we meet with the fire department. We make sure the fire department is comfortable with our plan. They know what our window of opportunities are, what our elements are, so that they can backstop our staff in making sure that a fire doesn't get out of control and start to impact a neighborhood or things along those lines. And the third leg is we do talk with the state KDHE folks, make sure that they understand what we're trying to accomplish. They're part of the planning process, and they know that we will not adversely impact air quality and things along those lines for our neighbors. So we do a lot of homework, a lot of research, and we do a lot of planning on the front end before we even start to talk about actually setting fire to any of the grass areas that we have. We control the invasive species through prescribed burns. We get rid of the honeysuckle that is an invasive in this area or in the state. We get rid of young cedar trees, so we end up with grasses rather than the cedar forests and things along those lines. The other side of prescriptions is mechanical. If we can't burn it, then we have a prescription to go in there with mowers or tree cutters or things along those lines to take out those hardwoodies. So if we don't think we can get into a Wichita wild site without impacting the neighborhood with fire, we do it mechanically, but it's still part of the prescription, and we plan for it ahead of time. One of the things that is most important for our prescribed burns is protecting against wildfire. You know, if the plant material that dies and builds up and dies and builds up if we have a wildfire, that can get in, and that can scorch, and that can go into the neighborhood. So that's the other reason we want to protect it. We do fire breaks on an annual basis. All of our Wichita wild sites have a ring cut into them, so that if a wildfire does take off, hopefully it won't get into the neighborhood as well. So it's an important asset. We improve the habitat for our wildlife that lives within the city limits, and it's a better exposure for our citizens when they're walking in the park.
So how soon do you expect to start these burns, and how many will there be?
The number will really be hinged on the weather conditions, and the conditions have to be right. We might not get any this year, but our window of opportunity is basically January 1st to April 1st. We do not do anything past April 1st. We're done. Two reasons is the climate changes, and we might negatively impact the air quality in this community, but it also we have to have the staff available to support those things, and our folks go back to mowing grass and doing what they normally do during our season. So January 1st to April 1st. We're in the heart of our season right now. Obviously, with the snowpack that we had, we haven't, but on the other side of it, that's going to put moisture into the soil, so it makes it better for us to protect the root zones that we're trying to propagate or grow out. So usually March is our heaviest year. The wind directions, the prevailing winds, are usually the best for us in March.
Is there a place where people can go to get a list of the locations where you guys are planning?
We're going to post it on our website, and we're going to try to get the word out through social media the morning of our fires where we're going to be at, so we can get it out to our Facebook clients, the people that like us. And we're also going to publish that, get it out, text message to the media as well, so that they know, hopefully early enough that they can get it on the morning news the day of. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Is there anything that people should know or that you'd like them to do on the days where you are going to do the burns?
Just be aware. Don't call go ahead and call 911. We want to make sure that it is one of our fires that we're doing. So we don't want to stop people from calling 911, but we're going to try to get the word out there enough, especially in the neighborhoods where we are doing the burns. They'll know ahead of time that this week looks favorable. But we'll try to get word out to the media the morning of. We start 5:30 in the morning to make those announcements. We call the fire department, let them know we're good to go, here's where we're going to be. So we're going to try to get that word out to the media in a proactive way so that they can get the word out, hopefully in the morning news.
Do you ever encounter issues with people maybe having personal property on some of the land that you'd like to do?
Great question. That is one of the things that negatively impacts our ability to properly manage our parks. We have people building buildings adjacent to their yard, only it's in park property. And if a wildfire does get out of control and burns that structure, it's not insurable, because it's not on their property. We get trampolines. We even have people fencing off portions of parks. That impacts our ability to protect their resources, their homes, from our fires, whether it's a prescribed burn or a wildfire. It could take off. We can't get in there to stop it because they've actually fenced park property as part of their yard. So we're going to be proactive. We're going to communicate with those neighbors where we find that circumstance and let them know that they are on park property, so that they can make the educated decision to remove their property. I hate to see somebody's children's trampoline get burned up through a wildfire or a prescribed burn. But we look for those things ahead of time. It's all part of the prescription, and we notify the neighbors if we think it's going to be an issue.
All right, well done. We've learned a lot today.
I
Thanks for being
appreciate it.
here.
Thank you, Laura.
And thank you for watching the City 7 News Now Update.